The Sullivan Manufacturing Company has always been for sons, my father declared, standing in his corner office overlooking the factory floor. That's how my father ran it, how his father ran it, and how it will continue to be run. I stood before him in my carefully pressed suit, the business proposal I'd spent months preparing clutched in my hands. At 26, with an MBA from Wharton and 3 years of experience at McKinsey, I was more qualified than either of my brothers to take over the family business. Not that it mattered. But Dad, I tried one last time. The manufacturing industry is changing. We need to adapt to modernize. Enough, Catherine. He waved his hand dismissively. Your brothers Michael and James will handle the transition when I retire. The company needs a strong hand, not. He gestured vaguely at my presentation materials, endless analysis and complicated theories. I glanced through the office window at my brothers on the factory floor. Michael was arguing with a supervisor about something, his face red with familiar anger. James was nowhere to be seen, probably still nursing a hangover from last night's client meeting. Those reports you're dismissing? I said quietly. They show we're losing market share to automated competitors. Our production costs are 30% above industry standard. If we don't change. I said enough. My father's fist came down hard on his desk. This is exactly why women don't belong in manufacturing. You're too caught up in numbers and charts to understand the real business. The relationships, the handshake deals, the way things have always been done. I stood there for a moment, letting his words sink in. 15 years of proving myself, of working harder than anyone else, meant nothing against centuries of tradition. Fine, I said finally, gathering my papers. Good luck with the old way of doing things. Catherine, he called as I reached the door, his voice softening slightly. There's nothing wrong with finding a nice corporate job. Something more suitable. The boys will make sure you're taken care of. I turned back, meeting his eyes. No, Dad. I'm going to do something better. I'm going to build my own company. And when I do, I won't need anyone to take care of me. He laughed, actually laughed. Manufacturing isn't something you can just start from scratch. It takes generations to build the connections, the trust. Who said anything about traditional manufacturing? I left his office for the last time that day, walking past the outdated machinery, the inefficient production lines, the mountains of paperwork that could have been digitized years ago. The Sullivan Manufacturing Company was a dinosaur, and my father was too proud to see the meteor coming. That night, I sat in my apartment with my best friend and fellow engineer, Sarah Chin, laying out my vision. Automated manufacturing, I explained, spreading out my plans on the kitchen table. Not just robots on assembly lines, that's old tech. I'm talking about AI-driven production, predictive maintenance, zero-waste optimization. Everything Sullivan Manufacturing does, but better, faster, and cheaper. Sarah studied the diagrams, her eyes widening. This could work, but you'd need serious capital, cutting-edge technology. I've been planning this for years, I admitted, pulling out another folder. Every bonus, every consulting fee, every penny I could save, it's all gone into research and development. I even filed provisional patents for some key innovations. Your father doesn't know? I smiled grimly. He never bothered to ask what his daughter was working on. Too busy teaching the boys how to close deals over golf and whiskey. We worked through the night refining the business plan. By morning, Nova Industries was born, at least on paper. The first year was brutal. I cashed in my 401k, sold my car, and moved into a tiny studio apartment to fund the initial development. Sarah joined as my CTO, bringing her expertise in artificial intelligence and robotics. We started small, operating out of a rented warehouse space on the outskirts of town. Our first prototype, an AI-driven manufacturing cell that could reconfigure itself for different products, took 8 months to perfect. My family, meanwhile, continued to ignore my existence. At holiday dinners, they talked around me, focused on Michael and James's important work at Sullivan Manufacturing. My mother's only question was whether I was dating anyone. Someone needs to carry on the Sullivan name, she'd say pointedly, conveniently forgetting that I already carried it. Then came our first breakthrough. A major tech company saw our prototype and placed an order for 10 manufacturing cells. The contract was worth more than Sullivan Manufacturing's entire annual revenue. I kept the news quiet, operating through shell companies and subsidiaries. Nova Industries grew steadily, attracting attention in tech circles but staying under the radar of traditional manufacturers. 3 years in, we revolutionized the industry with our adaptive manufacturing platform. While traditional factories needed weeks to retool for new products, our systems could switch production lines in hours. The orders started pouring in. I moved the company to a state-of-the-art facility across town from Sullivan Manufacturing. Sometimes, driving home late at night, I'd pass my father's factory and see the lights still on, knowing they were struggling to keep up with changing times. Sullivan Manufacturing posts record losses, read the headline in the local business journal. I kept a copy on my desk, not out of spite but as a reminder of why I'd started this journey. 5 years after being told I didn't belong in manufacturing, I stood in my own corner office, watching robots dance across the factory floor in perfect synchronization. Nova Industries had grown beyond my wildest dreams: 15 facilities worldwide, contracts with the biggest names in tech and automotive, and a reputation for being the future of manufacturing. Still, I kept my success hidden from my family. At Christmas dinners, I listened to Michael and James boast about deals that would turn everything around. They never asked what I was doing, so I never told them. Then came the day everything changed. Sullivan Manufacturing's biggest client announced they were switching to an automated supplier, specifically to Nova Industries. The contract had been negotiated through intermediaries. They had no idea they were dealing with the daughter their CEO had dismissed. My father called an emergency family meeting. I attended out of curiosity, sitting quietly as he paced the living room of my childhood home. "This is a disaster," he declared, running his hands through his gray hair. "Without the Anderson contract, we'll lose 30% of our revenue overnight." Michael punched a wall. James poured himself another drink. "Maybe," I suggested carefully, "it's time to consider modernizing. Upgrading the facilities, implementing automated systems dash." "With what money?" Michael snapped. "We're bleeding cash as it is. The bank won't extend any more credit." I watched my father sink into his favorite armchair, suddenly looking every bit of his 68 years. "All those generations of Sullivans," he muttered. "All that history." "History doesn't pay the bills," I said, standing up. "But the future might." They all looked at me, really looked at me for the first time in years. "What are you talking about?" James asked. I pulled out my phone and pulled up Nova Industries' website. I might know someone who could help. Michael grabbed the phone, his eyes widening as he scrolled through images of our automated facilities, our industry awards, our client list. This is incredible. Who owns this company?" I smiled, picking up my bag to leave. "Why don't you come by my office tomorrow? Bring your resumes. We'll discuss it then." "Your office," my father said slowly, realization beginning to dawn. "Stat. My office. In the building across town with my name on it. My whole name, not just the parts you thought were important." As I walked out, I heard James whisper, "Holy shit. Kathy's been busy." Indeed I had. And tomorrow they would find out just how busy. The real question was, were they ready to work for their little sister? The next morning, I arrived at Nova Industries early, watching the sunrise reflect off our building's sleek glass facade. The contrast with Sullivan Manufacturing's aging brick factory couldn't have been more stark. "Your brothers are here," my assistant announced through the intercom. "They're waiting in the main lobby." And they did bring resumes. I smiled. "Give them a tour of the facility first. I want them to understand exactly what they're walking into." Through the security cameras, I watched as Sarah led my brothers through our automated production lines. Their expressions shifted from confusion to awe as they saw robots seamlessly transitioning between tasks, AI systems optimizing production in real time, and technology they'd probably assumed only existed in science fiction. "Holy shit," I heard Michael whisper, his usual bravado completely gone. "This is next level." An hour later, they were shown into my office. Both stopped dead in their tracks, taking in the view, the modern decor, and most importantly, the awards lining the walls, including Manufacturer of the Year and Most Innovative Company. "Have a seat," I said, not looking up from my tablet where I was reviewing their hastily prepared resumes. They sat, James fidgeting with his tie while Michael tried to maintain his executive pose, though it looked more like a poor imitation now. "Interesting reading," I said finally, setting down the tablet. "Michael, you list yourself as VP of Operations at Sullivan Manufacturing, but according to your description, You mostly handle client relationships. Golf games and dinner meetings, I assume. He flushed. Those relationships are crucial to Dash. Were crucial, I corrected him. Before automation made personal relationships secondary to efficiency and reliability. How's that working out for you now? James cleared his throat. Look, Kathy Dash. Catherine, I interrupted. Or Miss Sullivan if you prefer. This is a professional meeting after all. Right, Catherine, he continued, swallowing hard. We know we haven't always treated you with respect, Dash. This isn't about respect, I cut him off. This is about qualifications. You're both applying for jobs at my company. So tell me, what exactly can you offer Nova Industries? They exchanged glances, clearly unprepared for this question. All their lives, things had been handed to them simply because they were Sullivan's sons. Now for the first time they had to prove their worth. I have 20 years of manufacturing experience, Michael offered. No, I replied calmly. You have 20 years of watching other people manufacture things while you played golf. There's a difference. I know all our suppliers, James added desperately. All the key players in the industry, Dash. Your suppliers are as outdated as your methods, I said, standing up. Let me show you something. I led them to our R&D department, where our latest prototype was being tested, a completely autonomous manufacturing cell that could design, iterate, and improve products without human intervention. This single unit, I explained, can do the work of your entire factory floor with better quality and zero waste. It doesn't need personal relationships. It doesn't care about family names or tradition. It simply performs. Then why? Michael paused, gathering his courage. Why did you tell us to come here? Just to show us how badly we failed. I turned to face them both. Because despite everything, you're still my brothers. And unlike our father, I don't believe in excluding family from business, as long as they're willing to learn to adapt to earn their place. What are you saying? James asked. I'm saying I'm offering you both jobs. Entry-level positions in our training program. You'll start at the bottom, learn every aspect of modern manufacturing, and if you prove yourselves, you can work your way up. Entry-level. Michael sputtered. But we're executives. We're executives, I corrected him. At a failing company. Here titles are earned, not inherited. Even the Sullivan name doesn't guarantee anything, except maybe an interview which you just had. Before they could respond, my assistant appeared. Miss Sullivan? Your father is here. I hadn't expected this, but I should have. Of course they would have told him. Send him in. My father walked into my office like a man entering enemy territory. His eyes darted around, taking in everything he'd dismissed as impossible years ago. Catherine, he said stiffly. This is impressive. Thank you, I replied, keeping my voice neutral. Though I believe you once called it endless analysis and complicated theories. He flinched. I was wrong. About a lot of things. Yes, you were. The Anderson contract, he said suddenly. You took it deliberately, didn't you? To force this confrontation. I smiled. Actually, no. Anderson chose us because we're the best at what we do. They had no idea about our connection. Though I admit the irony wasn't lost on me. He nodded slowly, then squared his shoulders like a man preparing to swallow something bitter. I'd like to propose a merger. Sullivan Manufacturing and Nova Industries. We could dash. No. The firmness of my response seemed to shock him more than anything else. But we're family. Yes, we are. And because we're family, I'm offering Michael and James a chance to learn, to grow, to be part of the future. But Sullivan Manufacturing? That represents everything I've spent 15 years proving wrong. It needs to end. You'd let our family's legacy die? He demanded. I gestured around my office. Look around, Dad. I'm not letting the legacy die. I'm transforming it. Nova Industries is the Sullivan legacy now. A legacy built on innovation and merit, not tradition and gender. He sank into a chair, suddenly looking very old. All these years, he murmured. All these years you were building this, and I never even asked what you were doing. No, you didn't. And now? What happens now? I sat down behind my desk in my company built my way. Now you have a choice. You can retire, enjoy your grandchildren, and know that the family name lives on in something greater than you imagined. Or you can stay and watch your sons learn what real manufacturing looks like in the 21st century. As entry-level trainees, Michael added bitterly. Yes, I confirmed. Because that's how real business works. Not through inheritance, not through tradition, but through hard work and adaptation. My father stood up slowly, straightening his jacket. You've proven me wrong, Catherine. Completely and thoroughly wrong. That wasn't my goal, I said softly. My goal was to prove myself right. He nodded, extending his hand formally. Congratulations, Miss Sullivan. You've built something extraordinary. I shook his hand, feeling the calluses earned from decades on the factory floor. Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Will you be staying to watch your sons start their training? He looked at Michael and James, then back at me. Yes, he said finally. I think I will. It's time I learned something new myself. 3 months later, I stood on our factory floor watching my brothers learn to program our automated systems. They were different now, humbler, harder working, genuinely eager to understand this new world of manufacturing. My father came by occasionally, not to interfere but to observe. Sometimes I caught him smiling proudly, not at the sons he'd once pinned all his hopes on, but at the daughter who'd revolutionized everything he thought he knew about business. Sullivan Manufacturing's old factory was being demolished next week. In its place, we were building Nova Industries' new research center, a place where tradition and innovation would finally work together. Miss Sullivan? My assistant appeared with a tablet. The Wall Street Journal interview is ready. They want to know the secret to Nova's success. I looked out over my factory floor, at the robots dancing their precise ballet, at my brothers learning their new roles, at the future I'd built from nothing but determination and vision. Tell them the secret is simple, I said. Never let anyone else define your capabilities. Success isn't inherited, it's earned, one innovation at a time. The Sullivan name meant something different now. Something better. And I had made it that way.